Hmm? Why? Why do you get to have support and I don't? Okay, all right. When you're my age, you will understand. Okay. Good evening. I'm very, very happy tonight to be finally with you in level 2. I hope your teachers so far didn't make you suffer too much. Have they been kind to you? Yes? Okay. All right. Before we begin with the topic, just a couple announcements. First is that tomorrow is your cleansing practicum. So that will be in the dining hall. And it will begin at 6:15. Okay. And then, before that, we will not have the level 2 morning Hatha Yoga. Okay. There will be morning prayer and there will be normal class here in the meditation hall. Okay. But tomorrow, consider it optional for you. Okay, so if you wish to take a little bit more rest, 45 minutes extra, and just be present at 6:15 for the cleansing in the dining hall, you may do so. All right? Okay. If you want to come 5:30 for the prayers, it's okay, but it's our second week and people are getting tired, so if you need a little bit extra rest, don't be shy and take it. Okay? And then, since it's our first class together and I want to be a nice guy for you, there's another gift for everyone. And that is that tomorrow from 2 to 4 you will have a holiday. Okay, so you'll have the morning workshop at 10 o'clock as usual, and then 2 o'clock, no digestive breathing, 2:30, no afternoon 2:30 workshop. You're completely free to do anything you want on campus until 4:30. We will have class at 4:30. All right, so if you want to sleep, if you need to rest your back, if you need to call your airline for some reason, okay, so you have that free time between 2 and 4:30 tomorrow. Okay, so I hope you appreciate the gift. Okay? Good. So 6:15 in the dining hall, and then afternoon 2 to 4 rest. Now, let's start with the topic for tonight. I'm sure everybody here has heard something at least about the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. You know that the yoga explained in the Yoga Sutra is one of the classical systems of philosophy of India. Right? So there are 6 systems of Indian philosophy, and yoga is one of them. Anybody can name the 6 systems of Indian philosophy for me? Just the name. That is level 1 material. Okay, so we have yoga, obviously, Sankhya, Vedanta, Advaita, Vedanta, same thing, Mimamsa, Nyaya, and Vaisheshika. Okay. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back to your level 1 resources. Okay. You have an article about that, about the 6 systems of philosophy and their short descriptions. Then you also know that each system of philosophy works in pair with another one. Okay, so each system of philosophy have their best friend. So yoga works together with Sankhya. And when Swami Veda was teaching us the Yoga Sutras here in the Gurukulam at the ashram, many times he repeated, you cannot understand Yoga Sutra if you don't have a strong understanding of Vedanta, of Sankhya philosophy. Okay. Sankhya is the philosophical system, the philosophical ground, and yoga is the application, the practical application of it. So without Sankhya, you cannot understand the terminology of the Yoga Sutras. Okay, for example, you cannot understand Chitta, you cannot understand Mahat, you cannot understand all the terminology. All right. So the text itself of Yoga Sutras, you know what the word sutra means. A sutra means a thread. Tomorrow you will do Sutra Niti. Okay? Huh?
That's a good one.
You will throw up also. we'll do the upper wash. Okay, so sutra is a thread. So the text of sutras, any text of sutras, are short sentences that are weaved like a thread to follow, to explain a topic. And sutra texts always need a commentary to understand them. Okay, because the sutras themselves are very short. They make the sentences as short as possible. And the explanations of those short sentences are in the commentary. Okay, and for the Yoga Sutras, the first and most important commentary is the one written by Vyasa. Okay. It is so important that when Swami Veda was teaching us, he was telling us the sutras of Patanjali and the commentary of Vyasa are to be considered as one single unit. Okay. So Patanjali and Vyasa is one thing to be studied together. And if you see the books, the commentaries written by Swami Veda is Patanjali, the sutra, and the commentary of Vyasa, and then he goes into the explanations of other commentators, etc. But Patanjali and Vyasa are always there together. I remember very, very well. I have the exact memory of that day. It was here in the meditation hall. Okay, Swami Veda was sitting around here, and I was sitting over there, around where Leila is sitting. Okay, and then there was another student who was sitting maybe where Neelam is, approximately. That was somewhere in 2006, maybe. So Swami Veda was teaching the Yoga Sutras, and he started asking questions. Yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. He was there also. Okay. So Swami Veda asked that student, "What is yoga?" Okay, and the student replied, So, what is yoga? Okay. According to Vyasa, in the very, very first sutra in his commentary, he says yoga is samadhi. Okay, and he doesn't even say yoga is samadhi, he just says yoga samadhi. Yoga and samadhi are so close together that there's not even a verb in between. Okay? Yoga, Samadhi. Even before Patanjali defines yoga, Vyasa does it in the first sutra.
所以甚至在帕坦加利在解释瑜伽的真正意义、定义瑜伽之前，威亚萨已经在第一个释论的那一句当中就解释完了。
Okay? Then Patanjali comes to define yoga in the second sutra.
然后帕坦加利在他写的他编撰的瑜伽经里面的第二经才开始定义瑜伽。
He says yoga is the control of the operations of the mind field.
他说瑜伽是对于心意的功能的控制。
Okay? So you have these three things. Yoga, Samadhi. Okay? Yoga is Samadhi, Samadhi is yoga.
所以你们现在有三样东西，第一个是瑜伽三摩地，瑜伽是三摩地，三摩地就是瑜伽。
Okay? Yoga is control of the operations of the mind field. Control of the operations of the mind field is yoga.
然后瑜伽又是对于理心室运作的完整控制，而对于理心室运作的完整控制就是瑜伽。
So you have yoga is here, Samadhi is here, and then control of the operations of the mind field is here. So, okay, this means this is equal to this, then also this will be equal to this. Samadhi is the control of the operations of the mind field, which is yoga.
所以它们其实是三个点，然后这三个东西是一样的，因为瑜伽是三摩地，瑜伽也是对于理心室运作的控制，所以三摩地其实就是你对于理心室运作的完整控制。
Okay? So when you use the word yoga, you have to be very clear what do you mean by the word.
所以当你用这个字瑜伽的时候，你必须要讲得非常清楚，你所说的瑜伽是什么意思。
Do you mean the system of philosophy, which is explained in the Yoga Sutra?
你的意思是说，这个瑜伽的哲学体系吗？也就是那个被帕坦加利解释在瑜伽经里面解释的东西。
Do you mean the goal of yoga, the definition of yoga itself, which is samadhi?
还是你的意思是瑜伽的目标，也就是三摩地呢？
Or do you mean the process?
还是你的意思是说达成瑜伽的那个过程？
Okay, when you're doing your asanas and your pranayamas, are you doing yoga?
当你在做体位法、休息法的时候，你是在练习瑜伽吗？
At one level, yes, because the process to achieve the state of yoga is also called yoga.
就某一种角度来说，是的，因为在你要去达到瑜伽境界的这个过程当中，这个过程也叫做瑜伽。
So when you say yoga, do you mean the state of yoga, the process of yoga, the system of philosophy?
所以当你说瑜伽的时候，你的意思是说瑜伽的境界，还是达到瑜伽的这个过程，还是瑜伽的这个哲学体系？
And sometimes I like to have fun with students. You know, I teach some classes in Canada, and sometimes people come to my class and they tell me I do yoga. When people tell me I do yoga, I have a lot of fun.
有时候我会跟学生们就是开一些玩笑，然后因为我之前会在加拿大上课，然后有些学生会跑来跟我说：“哦，我做瑜伽，我练习瑜伽。”然后我就会有很多的乐趣。
So when they tell me I do yoga, I always reply by asking the question, what do you mean by yoga?
然后就是每次当他们问我，每次当他们跟我说我做瑜伽，我练习瑜伽的时候，我都会回复他们一个问题说：“你
And they don't know what to answer.
瑜伽的意思是什么？”然后他们就没办法回答。
Okay? Now, let's come back to the structure of the text a little bit.
那让我们回到这个经典的结构吧。
How many chapters are there?
有多少章节呢？
How many chapters and how many sutras?
有多少章节跟
4 chapters?
4章？
and 195 or 196 sutras, depending on the edition.
有大概195或是196条经，是根据不同的版本会有不同的说法。
And then Patanjali in the text defines 3 types of practitioners.
然后帕坦加利在这个经典当中有定义了3种不同类型的修行者。
Okay? There are 3 types of practitioners who are trying to attain the state of yoga.
这3种不同的练习者、修行者，他们都是在瑜伽的这条路上想要去达成瑜伽的这个境界。
Does the state of yoga have anything to do with flexibility?
所以，我们这边说的瑜伽跟就是我们练习的这个柔软度有任何的关系吗？
Being able to stand on your head, being able to stand on your little fingers, being able to twist like a pretzel.
所以跟就是我们有办法就是在头上倒立，然后就是站立在我们的小指上有关系吗？
Okay, the state of yoga, which is control of the operations of the mind field, has nothing to do with that.
所以真正的瑜伽，也就是要去对我们心事运作有一个完整的控制，这样子的瑜伽其实跟我刚刚说的那些没有关系。
Okay, yoga is concerned with the mind primarily.
瑜伽主要是跟心境连接在一起的。
Okay, and the yoga that is prescribed for these 3 types of practitioners is prescribed for helping them work with their mind.
而我们所定义的瑜伽，也就是在这3种不同类型的修行者当中，会有几种不一样他们心事运作的模式。
Okay, maybe you have seen somewhere there's a famous verse that is written and recited in honor and homage to Patanjali.
你们可能之前在其他地方读过或是听过有一些非常有名的诗句是来赞叹帕坦加利。
Okay, because Patanjali was a master of 3 sciences.
因为帕坦加利它其实是3种不同的
3 sciences, 3 different sciences. Okay, he was a master of yoga.
他是瑜伽的大师，
He was a master of Sanskrit grammar.
他是梵文文法的大师。
Okay, he also wrote very important text on Sanskrit grammar.
因为他同时也有写过，就是非常多有关梵文文法的经典。
And he was also a master of Ayurveda.
他同时也是阿育吠陀的大师。
Okay, and the verse is Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham. I don't need to tell it in Sanskrit because it's not so useful. But it says that homage to Patanjali, the great sage, the one who removes the stains of the mind through yoga.
所以在这一条，在刚刚我唱诵那个诗句里面，他在讲是赞叹帕坦加利这件事情，在说帕坦加利是这么一个伟大的人，他是把我们心里面脏污移除的那个伟大的大师。
Who removes the stains of the mind through yoga, who removes the stains of the tongue through grammar, Sanskrit, and who removes the stains of the body through medicine, Ayurveda.
所以他把我们心中的，他透过瑜伽把我们心中的脏污移除掉了。他透过梵文的文法把我们嘴巴、把我们舌头的脏污移除掉了。他透过阿育吠陀把我们身体里面的脏污也都移除掉了。
So, these 3 types of practitioners have different prescriptions according to the level where their mind is at and the work that they have to do or the way that they have to go before attaining that state of yoga.
所以对于这3种不同类型的修行者、练习者来说，因为他们有3种不一样、不同阶段的心事，也就代表他们必须要学习、要走的路，他们的对于心事的掌握度都不一样。
Okay, so what do you think? How do you think Patanjali divided these 3 types of practitioners?
那你们觉得是怎么样的？你们觉得帕坦加利是怎么样去定义这3
You see it all the time in yoga studios.
你们会在瑜伽练习中心里面，常常都会看到这些东西。
Beginners, intermediate, advanced.
初学者、中阶者、高阶者。
Okay? Or, in the terms of Patanjali, the ones with slow progress, medium progress, and fast progress.
或是根据帕坦加利的语法，是第一个是那一些进步缓慢的、进步中等的、进步快速的。
Okay? And he has different types of practices for these different levels.
然后他有写出不同对于这样子不同阶段的修行者来说适用的不同的方式。
And these different levels have different chapters and sections of the text.
所以对于这一些不同的阶段的修行者，其实他们会被适用在瑜伽经里面不同的章节里面。
Okay? For the advanced one, the fast progress one, is the first chapter, Samadhi Pada, the chapter on Samadhi.
所以对于那一些快速的学习者来说，他们适用的那一篇是第一篇的瑜伽经的第一篇，也就是三摩地篇。
Because they have a lot of momentum, the only thing they have to do is sit in meditation, do the practice, and then they will be there.
因为他们有这么多的动力，他们有这么多的集结起来的善根业力，所以他们唯一需要做的事情只是坐在那边冥想，然后就直接进到三摩地了。
Okay? For the medium, the intermediate, he has the prescription of Kriya Yoga.
所以对于那一些中间的学习者来说，他有解释了叫做这个行瑜伽的这一篇给我们这些中间的学习者。
Okay? Kriya Yoga is the first half of the second chapter.
Kriya Yoga 是前半段、前半章的那一部分。
Okay? The second chapter is Sadhana Pada, the chapter on sadhana.
瑜伽经的第二章、第二篇叫做行门篇。
Anybody can give me a definition of sadhana?
有人可以给我这个萨达那修行的定义吗？
Spiritual practice.
Spiritual practice, okay.
灵性上的练习。
There is one problem with translation and transliteration that we see all the time.
在翻译跟音译上，我们常常会遇见一些问题。
Okay? These are two words in Sanskrit. Okay? When there is a line above the vowel is long. Okay? It's not sadhana, it's sadhana. Right?
所以这两个字其实是不同的两个字。当你在一个母音上面有一条杠的时候，它这个母音会被延长，它变成另外一个母音。
Okay? So it's the same word, but at the end, here the a is long. It makes a feminine word.
所以这其实是一样的字，但是在最后，现在它写出来这两个字是一样的字，可是下面那个是那个女性用词。
Here the a is short, it makes a masculine word.
然后上面的那个话是男性的用词。
If I was going to type in an English version of the Yoga Sutras without these marks, I would have no idea that these two words are different.
如果说我是用英文的字母去写的话，那我写出来的结果就是我完全看不出来这两个字的哪里有差别。
So here in Sadhana Pada, we have the masculine word, sadhana.
所以在我们的行门篇当中的那一个字，是刚刚上面那个男性的那个用词。
The feminine sadhana is spiritual practice.
而实际上，女性的那个用词萨达那，就是最后那个延长的那个音，实际上叫做灵性修行。
The masculine sadhana is means and methods for that practice.
所以男性的那一个词萨达那是练习的方法跟技巧。
Okay? So the second chapter is the chapter on means and methods.
所以实际上瑜伽经的第二篇行门篇指的是方式跟技巧。
Okay? Clear? I don't know if this is useful, but these are the little points that I get stuck onto. You know, I like to be clear about the definitions and meanings.
我不知道这对各位来说是不是有用，可是这些点是我希望就是可以澄清的一些东西。
So the first half of Sadhana Pada is Kriya Yoga.
所以在行门篇的前半篇，是Kriya Yoga 行瑜伽。
Now there is something very interesting that is happening, you know, recently in the last decades or century.
然后有一些很有趣的事情在最近的100年内，或是最近的几十年内发生。
Is that people take some terminology, some words from ancient texts, and they apply it to a modern system and they brand it with that name.
然后就是有一些人把一些古典文献里面的字词拿出来，这些语法、这些专有名词拿出来，然后把它加入一个品牌的形象，让它变成自己的一种品牌。
Okay, one good example of that is Ashtanga Yoga.
一个很好的例子叫做 Ashtanga Yoga。
Okay, if you go to a yoga studio and you say, I want to practice Ashtanga Yoga, they will kill you by, you know, right?
所以就是假如说你去一间瑜伽的中心，然后跟他们说你要练 Ashtanga Yoga 的话，他们就会把你这样子转来转去的。
But we all know that Ashtanga Yoga is the system of 8 limbs, also described by Patanjali.
可是我们都知道，其实真正的 Ashtanga 的意思叫做8支瑜伽，也是被帕坦加利在瑜伽经里面有描述到的。
The word Kriya means practice.
这个字 Kriya 的意思是练习的意思。
Okay, so any set of practice that you do is Kriya Yoga.
所以任何形式的练习其实都是行瑜伽。
Okay, in the system of Patanjali, Kriya Yoga is defined as the last 3 niyamas.
所以在帕坦加利的所解释的这个系统里面，所谓的行瑜伽指的是夜魔里面的后3项。
You have covered in level 1 the yamas and niyamas.
我们在一阶有学过夜魔跟离夜魔了吧？就是道德跟戒律跟道德。
The last 3 niyamas are
后3项的离夜魔是
these are the last 3 angas, okay, of the 8 limbs. The last 3 niyamas: tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara, pranidhana. Okay.
所以后3项的离夜魔是这个苦行，然后自习，研读经典，然后跟那个奉献于神。
Okay. Interestingly, you can also relate these 3 to the 3 types of yoga described in the Bhagavad-Gita.
然后非常有趣的是，你可以把这3项同时在瑜伽的形式里面也连接到佛学梵歌的其中一个部分。
Okay, and that is just my observation. Also, if one of my senior teachers tell that I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
然后这是我自己个人的观察。可是如果说有任何一个就是比较资深的老师跟我说这样是错的，那当然是
Okay,
错的。
but tapas can be related to karma yoga.
可是像 tapas 苦行，其实就跟我们所谓的夜瑜伽是连接在一起的。
Swadhyaya can be related to jnana yoga.
Swadhyaya 自习研读经书可以被连接到
Jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge.
智瑜伽，可以被连接到智瑜伽上面。
And Ishvara Pranidhana, of course, can be linked to Bhakti yoga, yoga of devotion.
Ishvara Pranidhana 奉 胜于神，臣服于神，可以被连接到奉爱瑜伽。
Okay, so just contemplate that a little bit. Think about that. All right.
所以大家可以沉思一下，好好的去思考这个点。
Swadhyaya. Who can give me two meanings of the word Swadhyaya according to Yoga Sutras?
Swadhyaya 自习研读经书，有人可以给我对于这个字的两个解释吗？
Studying the scriptures,
Mhm.
studying of ourselves.
Okay.
所以
That will be joined in the same meaning. Okay, self-study, study of the text leading to liberation.
所以刚刚他说的是自我研习、观察自我跟研读经书，那老师说这两个其实可以被结合在一起，当做一件事情来看。
But that is the second meaning in the Yoga Sutra. The first meaning of Swadhyaya is japa.
所以这个东西，刚刚我们所提到的自习研读经书，其实是在瑜伽经里面讲 swadhyaya 这个字的第二个解释。实际上的第一个解释的意义叫做持咒。
So doing your japa is Swadhyaya.
所以你去持咒，其实这件事情叫做 swadhyaya。
Okay. Interestingly, in that same section on Kriya Yoga, the first half of the second chapter, there's the complete philosophy of Buddhism.
然后非常有趣的，在帕坦加利第二章行门篇的前半段这个行瑜伽的这半篇当中，其实它就是所谓佛教的思想逻辑。
Who knows the four noble truths of Buddhism? Four Arya Satya?
有人知道佛教里面的这个四圣谛吗？
Don't be afraid if you know, if you think you know. Okay. So, huh? Okay. Dukkha, dukkha hetu, dukkha hanam, dukkha anopaya. Okay. This is the Sanskrit version.
四圣谛是苦集灭道。
So the four noble truths are that there is suffering. Suffering exists. Suffering has a cause.
所以这个四圣谛的第一个是苦，在那边有在我们的生命中有苦痛，然后第二个是集，在这个苦痛之间是有一个缘由的。
Suffering can be eliminated. Okay, there's possibility of life without suffering.
然后第三个就是当你的苦被消除了之后，来到了这个灭尽。
And then there are means to eliminate that suffering.
然后最后一个第四谛是道，也就是你可以去达到这个灭的境界，去去除苦痛的那个方式。
Okay, so in Buddhism, the word that is used is dukkha, suffering.
所以在佛教的逻辑当中，我们的这个字 dukkha 的意思被解释为苦。
Yoga Sutras, the exact four same sentences, but the word that is used is heya. Heya. Heya means what is to be removed.
然后在瑜伽里面，其实我们用的是完全一模一样的概念，只是在瑜伽经里面我们所用的词汇叫做 heya。heya 的意思也就是说那一些需要被排除、需要被清除的东西。
Okay, what is to be removed? Suffering.
那一些所需要被移除的东西叫做苦痛。
So you find in that section of the Yoga Sutra, heya, heya, hetuhu, heya, hanam, heya, hanopaya. Same words, only we replace dukkha with heya.
所以也就是说，大家可以在瑜伽经里面找到那一篇那一节经段，在讲说苦集灭道这四件事。
Okay, and that's very interesting because Buddha was a student of Sankhya philosophy.
这是非常有趣的，因为佛陀其实之前他也是数论的学生。
Okay, so all that philosophy of eliminating suffering comes from Sankhya.
所以所有这一些要去移除苦痛的这样子的概念，来自于数论。
Okay, So the first chapter on Samadhi for the advanced one, the first half of second chapter, Kriya Yoga for the medium, and then for the slow one like us.
所以第一篇是三摩地篇，是给就是高阶的学生，然后第二篇的前半段是瑜伽，是给中等的学生。
Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, etc., etc., etc. Okay? All the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga.
第二篇的后半段是给就是像我们这些进度缓慢的学生来做的，也就是八字瑜伽。
Okay? So where do the slow ones need to begin from?
所以对于那一些进步缓慢的学生来说，要从哪里开始练习呢？
From non-violence. From being friendly with your neighbor.
所以对于我们来说，对于那些进度缓慢的学生来说，要从非暴力开始练习起。
Okay? You know, one time Swami Veda was teaching in the Gurukulam, and he was teaching about yamas and niyamas. And the topic of that day was ahimsa, non-violence.
有一天，小米飞来教课的时候，他就讲到了夜魔跟夜魔，然后那一天的主题其实就是互暴、非暴力。
Then he was explaining Vyasa's commentary on non-violence, and he was saying, non-violence is the absence of inclination of harming.
他就在解释威亚萨对于阿黑扎这个字互暴的诠释跟意义，也就是说，互暴其实真正的意义是你连那一个想要施加暴力的倾向都没有。
Okay? Not punching your neighbor, but wanting to punch him in your mind is not ahimsa, because you have the inclination to violence.
所以不是说你不去用肉体打你的邻居，而是你想要打他的那个念头都不可以升起，想要打他的那个念头都没有才是非暴力。
So, no desire, no inclination for violence in all circumstances at all times towards all living beings.
没有任何的欲望，没有任何的倾向去从事任何的暴力，对于在任何的情境，在任何的时间，对于任何的生命体。
Okay? Very difficult.
非常困难。
Okay? No desire for violence in all circumstances at all times towards all living beings. Somebody raised the hand in the class when Swami Veda was teaching.
当他在讲这件事情的时候，有人就在课程当中举了手。
And you probably think about what they asked. You know, the question was, Swamiji, what about mosquitoes?
大家可能也都已经知道，就是那个问题在哪里。他就问说，Swamiji，那蚊子怎么办？
Okay, and Swami Veda's answer was, start with human beings.
Swami Veda 的答案回复是说，先从对人的练习开始。
Can you have no inclination to harm any human beings in any circumstances at all times?
你有没有办法做到在完全对于任何的人完全没有任何暴力的欲望跟倾向，在任何的情境跟任何的时间呢？
And that's where yoga starts.
这就是瑜伽真正开始的地方。
If you don't have that, you don't have yoga.
如果你没有这个的话，你就没有瑜伽。
Okay? So, the second half of the second chapter is for the beginners.
所以在瑜伽经的第二篇的后半段，这个部分是给那些瑜伽的初学者来学的。
Okay? And Swami Veda used to joke sometimes, and he would say, oh, what if I don't want to, do all the asanas and the pranayamas and pick my nose and, I'll do all these practice. What about the lazy people?
然后 Swami 以前常会开玩笑说，哦，要是我不想要做一大堆这些体位法，不想要做一大堆的那个调息法，这样子，要是我想要当一个懒人的话，
Can the lazy people also attain samadhi?
对于这些懒人来说，他们有机会可以达到三摩地的境界。
And there is a shortcut in the text.
在经典当中，其实有写到一个捷径。
There is one sutra that is the shortcut to all practices.
在瑜伽经里面有一经讲的就是这样子一个对于所有练习的捷径。
Ishvara pranidhana.
奉献于神，
Surrendering to the divine.
臣服于神，
Complete surrender of your entire being.
完全的臣服，整个人完全的对神臣服。
But the thing is that if you completely surrender, you cannot claim any fruit. If you say, I will surrender in order to attain samadhi, that's not going to work.
可是实际上的完全臣服跟奉献是你任何想要从上面得到的回报跟果实的那样子的心态都没有。所以你要是带着一个心态说，我要完全的臣服，这样我就可以达到三摩地的境界，这样子不成立。
It's surrendering your entire being unconditionally.
你是要完全无条件的去奉献自己，臣服于神，
That's the shortcut.
那就是捷径。
Okay? If it works for you, you let me know.
如果说你们成功做到这件事情的话，请跟我说。
Okay? All right. Then what is the third chapter about?
那第三篇瑜伽经第三篇是在讲什么呢？
Often it is understood as the chapter on miraculous power and powers and siddhis.
我们叫它siddhi，也就是特殊的能力，或者说一些成就。
Okay? But the title of the chapter is Vibhuti.
而这一篇第三篇的章节的标题叫做毗菩提。
Okay? Vibhuti means variation on being.
毗菩提的
On being.
毗菩提的意思其实是你在存在的这样子一个状态的不同的变形。
And it describes all these things, you know, the capacity to read the minds of others, the capacity to know your past lives, the capacity of, you know, this and that, walking on water and all these things.
然后他就解释了很多一些很有趣的能力，像是你可以去读别人心的能力，然后你可以知道自己过去式的能力，然后你可以在水上行走的能力等等的。
And according to the texts, according to the Yoga Sutra, these are not things that you acquire, these are things that are in you that you unfold, that are unfolded with the practices.
而根据瑜伽经，其实这些能力并不是你得到的能力，而是你开启展开你原本就有的那个能力。
But it also gives a warning. He says all these powers and running behind these powers is an obstacle to samadhi.
可是他同时也给了一个警告，跟你说，所有这一些能力，其实都是你前往三摩地的阻碍。
Okay? And in the text, and Swami Veda was making the distinction, there are two types of powers, two types of siddhis.
而在经典当中，Swami Veda 其实有去做一个分别，有两种不同的能力。
By the way, do you know that it's the same verb root for the word sadhana and for the word siddhi?
你们知道，其实 sadhana 跟 siddhi，
Okay?
修行或者是修行的方法跟成就是一样的意思吗？
The verb root
是
is
一样的，
sad.
字根是 sad。
Sad means the process of making something ready.
sad 的意思是那一个你要把一样东西准备好的过程。
Okay? So process of accomplishing something.
那个你要去达成什么成就什么的过程。
Okay? So siddhi is accomplishment.
所以 siddhi 是一种成就，
Okay? And siddha is accomplished. Okay? So two types of siddhis of powers, like, reading the minds of others and walking on waters, etc.
所以有两种不同的成就，第一种成就是像你可以读心术，像你有办法水上行走。
And then siddhis of purification.
还有另外一种成就是你进化的成就。
For example, the result from the mastery of nonviolence.
也比如说像是你在练习非暴力的最后达到的一个结果。
Okay? The result of the mastery of nonviolence is that in your presence, all the living beings will completely lose their instinct of aggression.
在这样子练习非暴的产生的一个结果，就是在你的面前，在你的身前，所有的众生，他们会失去这样子一个想要有任何暴力念头的情绪。
So this is a siddhi of purification.
这个就是一个进化的成就。
And Swami Veda was repeating again and again, our path in the tradition is not the path of powers, our path is the path of purification.
他Swami Veda之前一直在课程当中强调说，我们在这个传承里面的道路，不是要达到成就，要去有任何能力成就的道路，而是进化的那个成就。
Okay? Even when Swami Rama asked Swami Veda, do you want some siddhis? I can give you anything you want. He said, I don't want siddhis, I want samadhi.
就像是 Swami Rama 之前有跟 Swami Veda 说，你有想要任何能力的成就吗？我可以给你任何你想要的能力哦。然后 Swami Veda 就跟 Swami Rama 说，我不想要任何的能力，我只想要三摩地。
Okay? So it's not the path of powers and inflating the ego, it's the path of purification, going towards that goal, that definition of yoga.
所以这一条道路并不是一条要前往取得很多能力的那一条道路，而是一条前往瑜伽真正目标三摩地的那个道路。
Okay. One thing before we end, one thing that is very, very interesting is that one of the most important practices that we have in the tradition is a practice from Sadhana Pada, the chapter for the advanced yogis.
然后有一件非常在我们结束这堂课之前，有一件非常重要的事情跟大家说一下，也就是在我们这个传承里面，我们其实有一个练习是给那一些非常高阶的学生，也就是在三摩地篇里面所提到的练习。
Okay. Soon after Swami Veda had met his master, Swami Rama, so Swami Rama started to teach him breath awareness, feeling the flow of the breath in the nostrils.
在 Swami Veda 认识 Swami Rama 之后，很快的 Swami Rama 就教 Swami Veda 去练习呼吸的觉知这件事情。
And then Swami Veda was telling us that, he had just met his master and he was that great scholar and he wanted to challenge his master.
然后 Swami Veda 之前跟我们说，那时候他认识了他的上师，然后他自己觉得他是一个非常伟大的那个学者，所以他想要去挑战他的上师。
Then he asked to Swami Rama the question, breath awareness, feeling the breath in the nostril, where is that in the Yoga Sutras?
他就问他的上师 Swami Rama 说 ，breath awareness 感受就是呼吸的觉知，你是在冥想当中去感受你的呼吸。这个在瑜伽经典哪一篇里面有写到？哪一经有写到
Okay. And Swami Rama said, chapter 1, Sutra 34.
Swami Rama 说，瑜伽经第1章第34经。
Okay. Refining and controlling the flow of prana.
是去净化跟控制你生命能量的流动。
Okay. So whichever our level may be, one of the main practices of the tradition is a practice for the advanced. So you should be happy with that.
所以不管你们现在的程度在哪里，我们这个传承其中一个最主要的练习是给这些进阶的练习者的，而 各位都在练习，所以大家应该要感到开心。
Okay, and then the fourth chapter, okay, there are 4 chapters, I should speak a little bit about the fourth, is the chapter on Kaivalya.
然后瑜伽经的第4篇，也就是解脱篇。
Kaivalya is the ultimate purpose of yoga, and you cannot understand Kaivalya if you don't understand Sankhya philosophy.
解脱篇其实是瑜伽的最终目的，而你没办法去了解这一篇。假如说你完全没有读过数论，没有了解过数论的话，你没办法去了解这一篇在讲什么。
But even then, understanding it will not help you because it's experiential.
可是即便你去了解它，其实也不会真正帮助到你，因为这个概念是实际经验的概念。
Okay. You know that in India you can do university studies in yoga, right?
你知道在印度，其实你可以在大学里面就是博士学历。
Our Pandit, Deepak, is a master of yoga. Yes, yes.
这个学者他是瑜伽大师。
Yes, yes, he has completed his degree. He's a certified yogi.
他之前完成了他的这个瑜伽的大学学历，所以他是一个受认证的瑜伽师。
So at one point, when they have these PhD jury for reviews,
所以就是他们这些大学有这些可以发出去的证照。
then they bring out somebody, an expert in the field, from outside the university setting, an independent expert, right?
然后他们又从大学外面找了真正的专家来到这边。
So one time, they had the really, really, really bad idea of calling Swami Rama.
然后有一次，他们就是产生了一个非常非常不好的念头，他们竟然把 Swami Rama 叫去学校。
And the PhD thesis was about the Yoga Sutras, some very, very particular topic.
然后那一次的博士论文在讲有关瑜伽经的一个非常非常细的一点。
So Swami Rama was the expert jury. So he took the thesis, he put it away. He said, yoga is not about theory, it's about practice.
然后因为 Swami Rama 是这么一个瑜伽的大师专家，然后他在当公证人，他在当那个陪审团的那个判断者的时候，他就说瑜伽不是任何理论的东西，瑜伽是实际上的练习，然后把博士论文放在旁边。
Then he said to the students, we will both sit for meditation.
然后他就跟他的学生，他就跟前面的学生说，我们现在一起来静坐。
If I move from my seat before you, you pass.
如果说我在你们之前先离开我的座位的话，那你们就通过这个考试。
If you move from your seat before me, you fail.
如果说你在我之前离开你的座位的话，那你就被打。
I don't know what happened to the poor student, but they never invited Swami Rama again.
我不知道就是那些学生后来发生什么事，可是那间学校后来就再也没有邀请Swami。
Okay, so that's where I want to end. Remember, it's not a theory.
那这个也是我想要就是结
Okay.
束这堂课。
It's not a theoretical system. It's a system of philosophy that is there to support your practice.
它并不是瑜伽，并不是一个理论，而是一个实际上去协助你练习的哲学。
Okay, it's the roadmap. It's there to help you with the practice.
它是一张可以协助你去练习的地图。
Okay, the map is useful if you go somewhere.
一张地图是在你决定要去哪里的时候会非常有用的。
You have no need for a map if you're just sitting there and not going anywhere.
如果说你只是坐在那边没有要去任何地方的话，一张地图帮不了你。
It's there to support your practice, but it doesn't mean anything just as an intellectual gymnastic.
它是在那边去协助你前进、协助你练习的，可是它并不是只是代表着一些知识上的东西而已。
2 years ago, we were invited to Korea,
2年前，我们被邀请去
And then we went to a Buddhist temple in Korea, and we had heard from other teachers, Toma and Ashutosh, that there was a really, really wonderful Buddhist monk there that we should meet.
然后我们就在那一次的时候有经过一间佛教的修道院，然后那时候在那之前我没有听Stone老师跟阿修老师讲说，就是有一个很资深的和尚，我们应该要去拜访。
So one of the things I did during the course of my studies here is that I memorized the Yoga Sutras.
然后在这边我做过一件我自己觉得很不错的事情，是我
All the 195 sutras.
所有196字我都记得。
Okay. What I was doing is that we were getting some milk from outside across the gate. So I was going with my milk pot, and I figured out that I could recite 2 chapters from my home to the milk place.
然后就是那时候我是要做一件事情，我要去外面拿牛奶，我要去外面买牛奶。
Then I would take my fresh milk and come back, and I had the time to do 2 chapters in my mind walking back.
那时候我就在想说，我要过去那一段路上，这个时间够，我可以去在心中念诵2篇的瑜伽经，然后回来的时候我可以再念后面的2篇。
You know, while you walk, what do you do with your mind? Better recite the Yoga Sutras than, think about strange things.
所以你也知道，当你在走路的时候，你要做什么？当然就是去比起随便乱想一些事情的话，去念诵瑜伽经是好的。
So I had memorized the entire Yoga Sutras, and we were in Korea, and the person who was with us, accompanying us to that monastery, started praising me to the monk that, oh, this man has learned the entire Yoga Sutras by heart.
所以就是我在做这件事情的时候，就遇到了另外那个
And then
比较好的
she was praising me, and I was trying to hide.
他就另外那个人他就来追我，想要把我带去那一间修道院去见那个师父。
Because he was a very, very advanced monk, and I didn't want anybody to praise me in front of him.
因为他要带我去见的那一位师父是一个非常资深的师父，然后我不希望有任何人在这样一个资深的师父面前去称赞我。
And then he turned to me and he said, oh, you have memorized, you remember all the Yoga Sutras. Yeah, you remember all the Yoga Sutras.
所以他就转过来看我说：“哦，你记得所有的瑜伽经啊。”
And he said, I only remember the Buddha.
然后他说：“我只记得主佛陀。”
Okay? So, all this doesn't mean anything without practice.
所以这个其实在讲的意思就是说，唯有练习才可以帮我们达到我们要的那个目标。
Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your participation. And just sit for a minute in silence and continue with the evening prayers. Thank you.